Hello and welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show. I am Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. Thank you for tuning in each and every Tuesday to the Smart Chiropractor Show. We have an awesome show lined up, a bunch of conversations that we believe you can and should be having, things that you should be thinking about, and some tactical implementation as well. We're going to have a fantastic show. Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. As you said, a lot of good conversations to have. I think that is probably the best way to describe it. They should be conversations. We'll be putting out some questions that hopefully some of you will want to answer and respond to and connect with us on. And, you know, each and every week, that's what we do. We try to dig a little deeper to those chiropractors that are thinking, want to get smarter, want to get better, want to grow their business, want to grow their impact, want to have more fun and freedom in practice. And today's one of those shows that's going to talk about all of those things and more. So welcome, everyone. We're looking forward to having you.
I could not agree more. Docs listening and watching, be sure if you're checking this out on social, enable those notifications so you do not miss a segment or a show. If you're checking it out on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We publish each and every segment of this show amongst other great videos each and every week. So be sure to subscribe to the Smart Chiropractor YouTube channel. And if you are more of a reader, you can head over to the blog at the Smart Chiropractor, where we are consistently publishing a bunch of really high impact articles, clinical, business, marketing, mindset, you name it. Without further ado, let's head over to our first segment on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. Welcome to the Mindset Mentor segment on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. Today we are going to ask the question, does my mission matter? Jason and I were talking pre-roll. I don't think there's anybody out there that hasn't asked themselves this question. Does my mission matter? It's a very important question to ask, maybe even more so than answer. And Jason, this is a wide and deep conversation, but how are you thinking about this ever important question?
Well, it is the question. It came to me last week as, you know, we're preparing for each and every week. What can we say? What can we ask? What can we do to evoke something that's going to get you to pause for a moment, pay attention, and make sure you're on track. Make sure that all the boxes are checked and that you are on the pathway to your dream practice. And one of the questions that came up for me was, you know, how important is it to live your mission? You know, when it comes to healthcare especially, but when it comes to any business, people go into business for a variety of different reasons. But at the end of the day, there tends to be one master that you can serve and one master only. And when I say master, I mean, are you in business to serve other people? Are you there to share and give out of your abundance, regardless of the results of your business? Or are you there to turn as large of a profit as you possibly can at all costs and do whatever you need to do to maximize your revenue, maximize your impact, and minimize your expenses? The question is, what is your master? Are you purpose-driven, as some people would call it? Or are you profit motivated, as some people will call it? And we're not here to judge one way or the other. You know, a business is designed to be profitable. That is the definition of what a business is supposed to do. But as Jeff and I were really kind of preparing for this segment and so on, the one thing that comes up when it comes to the healthcare industry, specifically chiropractic care, is that it changes things. You know, if you opened up a retail store, if you were a medical doctor, if you were an accountant, if you did something that required you to pay for something and then resell it, there would be much more of sort of an investment to go, wait, I paid this amount. I need to make at least this amount, if not a profit also. But it gets a little bit weird and scrambled up when you're dealing with people, your heart, your interest in serving other people with your hands and your information. And I say that because most people become chiropractors not because they want to run a business, but because they want to help people. And when there's no sort of physical costs of a product involved, or cost of goods sold, as they'd call it in business, when you have the ability to be able to lay your hands on someone in the right way, at the right time, in the right place, because of your specialized knowledge, and help them live and lead a higher quality of life, in some cases save their lives altogether, then it becomes a little bit messy in our minds in terms of what is the master that we're serving. So really, question number one to ask yourself, you don't have to answer it necessarily, you can if you want to, is, does my mission matter? What master am I serving? Is this about building as big of a business with as much revenue as I possibly can? And, if I thought I should do it this way, but that way is more profitable, I'll do it the more profitable way. Or did you have a moment in time when you decided to become a chiropractor? If you'll pause for a moment and just think, reflect back, in that whole movie, that movie thing, think back to the time you said, I think I'm going to become a chiropractor. I'm going to go to chiropractic school. The moment you made that decision, you were saying, and decision means to decide or to cut off from. When you decide to do one thing, you are cutting yourself off from all other possibilities. Those are called opportunity costs. And the fact is, if you're a chiropractor, you made a decision to not do an unlimited number of other things in order to do this thing called chiropractic. And I want to just pause for a moment and ask you, what was the feeling you had? What was the thing? What was the idea, the emotion, the reason, the vision that you had that gave you that crazy notion that all other decisions are off the table because I am committing my life to going to chiropractic school, getting out, and becoming a chiropractor? Can you remember what drove you to do this in the first place? And then the second question I'll ask is, are you doing that? You went through school, you accumulated probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt, if not paid it already. And now you're in practice, you're in business, you have the opportunity to serve. My question is, are you practicing your purpose? Or has your business stolen your dream practice? Have you gotten into the place that many chiropractors do unfortunately get to? And they go, I know I went into this for these reasons, but I've got a mortgage, I've got a family, I've got to save for college for my kids, weddings for my daughters, I've got bills to pay, responsibilities, parents, you name it. The money is really what I need to earn most right now at the expense of your dream, the expense of your passion, at the expense of your mission. And it's not uncommon. Many of us fall victim to that circumstance. It's a real circumstance when you have financial responsibilities you've got to get to month after month after month after month. And so that's the question. Do you have something stirring in your soul that says, I wish I could practice this way. I wish I didn't have to do these things. I wish my business could be different. And if you feel that, then we should talk. Because what Jeff and I are bringing out, and the reason we keep over and over and over and over and over, almost in a recurring way, talking about recurring revenue, is because we believe, in fact, I'll dare say we know, that the key to your freedom moving forward in your practice, to being able to practice what you originally wanted to practice for, to be able to serve the way you wanted to serve, adjust the way you wanted to adjust, work where you want to work, with who you want to work, as much or as little as you want to work, with the people you do or don't want to work with, the payers you do or don't want to work with. To have that kind of freedom, it can only happen in one of two ways. Either you are born independently wealthy and were fortunate enough to hit some sort of lottery ticket where you don't need the money and you can do this purely for the pleasure of it, or, like just about everybody else, you have to set up your business in a way that finances or supports your dream, that is there to be able to have the resources for you to be able to express the way you want to express your profession, your expertise, your skill set, your art, your craft, your knowledge. Again, the reason you chose to become a chiropractor. And there's a spectrum of reasons. Everybody did it for slightly different reasons. I remember I used to teach chiropractic philosophy at Life West for quite a few years. And I remember in the very beginning, I would go around the room when everybody was there and everybody would take their turn answering the question, why did you decide to become a chiropractor? What motivated you? And you'd hear everything from, well, I had a health scare and a chiropractor saved me. I had an injury or pain. A chiropractor saved me. I had a family member, friend whose life was saved with chiropractic, and I wanted to do that for other people. Some ghosts go, it was a good business. Other go, I'm not sure how I got here, but I'm here. Other people say it was a mission and a calling. When I learned about the big idea, when I learned about helping people release their own ability to heal themselves without drugs, surgeries, and all the other insanity that is so excessively used. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's excessively used. What was your dream? What was that little stimulus, that idea that stirred your soul into becoming a chiropractor? And are you living your dream? And if you're not, then let's talk monthly recurring revenue. Let's talk, what do you need to do to be able to set your business up in a way that you can generate enough monthly recurring revenue to cover some, eventually all, of your monthly recurring expenses so that you are then free. You know, one of the most popular excuses I hear from chiropractors and their lack of living their dream, their lack of being, quote, successful, is they go, well, the problem is they never taught us anything in chiropractic school about business. That's the problem. Well, let me make up for all of that and eliminate your excuse. Here's what you need to know about business. This is what you need to know about business. Every dollar you earn above your expenses is called your profit. Once you've met your expenses, the money above that is your profit. And yes, you want to earn as much profit as you possibly can. Let's remember, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And how much you keep has to do with making sure you've met your monthly expenses. And the reason Jeff and I have literally pivoted our business and our mindset to be able to address this exact issue is because most chiropractors we've spoken to and seen over the decades we've been doing this have fallen victim to needing more new patients every single month. It's been exhausting listening to chiropractors reply back to us. That's a great idea. We should do that. That would be wonderful for the profession. That would be wonderful for people. We should do it, but I need more new patients now. I can't afford to do those things because I need more new patients. And if that sounds like you or anybody you know, then you know that that is a problem, because if you can't afford to practice the way you want to, if you can't afford to tell your truth, if you have pivoted your ideas and ideals, your procedures and your processes in order to just focus on what's easiest and most profitable, there's a good chance you're going to at some point lead to what they call as burnout, emotional burnout. The frustration of saying, why am I working this hard and doing this much just to be on the treadmill of covering my expenses, hopefully. And the reason that happens is because of your business model, not because of your business intelligence, not because of how smart or good of a chiropractor you are. It is specifically your business model. And the one thing we've noticed in the chiropractic profession that is lagging, trailing behind the rest of the modern world is this concept of generating monthly recurring revenue. The most successful, most profitable businesses in the world today, in many ways, adopt this concept of memberships and subscriptions so that people can generate monthly recurring revenue. You see it on Amazon, subscribe and save. You see it at all kinds of new businesses, including healthcare businesses. Join our membership. And that is a new and fresh way for you to be able to attract clients who actually want to work with you on a consistent basis and become a member of your practice, or sometimes even better, be able to offer people the products they're already buying anyway, but they should be buying from you, that you could be providing for them conveniently, drop ship to their door month after month after month, usually some sort of vitamin or supplement that most people are taking every day. We're not talking about the therapeutic stuff. We're talking about those essential fundamentals, basics, the things that everybody should be taking every day. You probably take it yourself. You probably recommend it regularly when they ask, but you probably don't have the systems and technology set up for you to start generating monthly recurring revenue to cover your monthly recurring expenses so that you can be the chiropractor you've always wanted to be, so that you can practice in the style you want to, with the people you want to, at the pace you want to, where you want to, when you want to. That's what we call freedom. And it all starts by asking this very simple question: does your mission matter? If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's fine. Be honest with yourself, because if it does, then let's work together, Jeff, myself, our team, you, and your team, and let's put together a monthly recurring revenue machine that's going to meet your monthly recurring expenses, so you've got the freedom. The rest of the money you earn is profit. That means if you want to work more and profit more, you can. If you want to work less and profit less, you can. But it's all profit because you've met your monthly recurring expenses. That is the way to think about your business today and moving forward. It's the way to eliminate that need for new patients month after month after month. Once you are able to get to a place where you go, hey, it's the first of the month, we're processing all the credit card payments we need to in order to cover our expenses, or much of it or some of it, that slowly starts decreasing your stress. And the less stressful you are, the happier you are, and the better chiropractor you are, the better business owner you are, the better parent, spouse, person, the better you will feel about yourself when you can get out of that monthly financial stress. Nobody likes it. It's there. It's a reality. And we just talked about the way you can solve it. Jeff, we've been having this conversation for a while. People need to read our new book coming out, The Payday Practice. What are your thoughts on mission, purpose, that inspiration that stirs us into making that crazy choice to become a chiropractor and dedicate our lives to making a difference in other people's lives? What's your take on it?
There's easier professions out there if your sole goal is to make
You're in
money.
it for the money.
So I don't think there's any question about that, and most chiropractors can definitely understand that and hopefully get a little chuckle. But the gist of it is, much of the world is moving towards a membership model. If in one way it's coming full circle, chicken and egg, where did it start? You think back to patrons, artists in the 1500s, and they were on retainer, and then everybody sold their work fee for service, a la carte, for hundreds of years. Think about an insurance company. As much as we might loathe them, they have a membership-based model where they take the money each and every month. They never want to dole it back out. The beauty of being a healthcare provider is that you get to deliver fantastic service and never shortchange anybody. So the crazy part is 99, I don't know the stat, but 99.9% of chiropractors having 99.9% of their income generated on a fee for service. It's just super vulnerable, and the world has changed. I mean, it is changing, but it already has changed. So it doesn't mean you need to totally change everything you're doing in your practice. It doesn't mean you need to do anything you don't want to do. As a matter of fact, it just means you need to dig deeper. You need to understand, what am I really providing? What, to your point, Jason, what is my mission? What am I really trying to accomplish on behalf of my patients, with my patients, hand in hand with my patients? What am I delivering? What is the outcome and the goal that I want for them? And what is the outcome and the goal that I want for me? Once you establish that, now it's pretty easy. And we've talked to chiropractors, subluxation-based chiropractors, rehab-based chiropractors, sports chiropractors, you name it, that have begun to get these puzzle pieces of memberships and subscriptions together. So it doesn't matter if you believe that doesn't apply to me in my practice. That's an excuse. I'll just call it exactly what it is. If you want to bury your head in the sand, well, you can do that, but you're going to miss the opportunity and potentially suffer at the expense of that choice. So the point right now is not that you need to dramatically know everything or take every single step. the point is, now is the time to start collecting information, start learning about how to take those action steps. And I guess my challenge would be for everybody listening and watching, over the next week or so, take stock. Identify, as Jason asked, what is your mission? What are you really trying to accomplish professionally and personally? And once you establish that, now it starts to become, and we're going to lay out the process in the coming weeks and months, and certainly within the book, The Payday Practice as well. But now you can start to reverse engineer what are products, services, membership options that I can empower my patients to take advantage of that'll help them achieve that goal longer, faster, quicker, however you want to define that. And that is really, really, really what it comes down to. And of course, it's always going to be, you'll start with 0 members and then you'll go to 1. So it's not about closing your doors today and opening up a totally different business tomorrow. Right now, it's just about opening your mind a little bit, understanding what's new, what's out there, and ultimately how it can serve you and your patients in the best manner moving forward. So now is the time to start thinking about it. Tomorrow, maybe not literally tomorrow, but tomorrow is the time to take action. Right now is the time to start thinking about it. We hope to be able to guide that process for as many docs as possible over the coming weeks and months. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them down below. So that was a pretty complete thought, Jason. But I think we are up against it on our Mindset Mentor segment. Let's head over to clinical conversations on today's Smart Chiropractor show. Clinical conversations on today's Smart Chiropractor show. We held Axis 2021 a few months back in 2021, and that was our online clinical event. We had an array of awesome chiropractors and speakers come on and talk about clinically relevant topics. During our clinical conversations on Smart Chiropractor Show, we've been revisiting some of those highlights, and today will be no exception. We're going to take a look at Dr. Jason Sonner's talk on hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Fascinating, and Jason knows a lot about this topic. So if you've been interested in it, if you'd love to learn more or geek out, stay tuned because we're going to press play momentarily on a 10-minute clip from his talk at Axis 2021. But before we do, I want to encourage you to stay tuned as we will shortly be releasing details for Axis 2022. So we're going to hold Axis 2022, an online clinical event coming up later this year. Details will be emerging soon, but until then, you can get a taste with what other docs tuned into during Axis 2021.
Trauma or chronic injury or neurologic disease, degenerative neurologic disease. This system is something that we see in so many different patients. Usually, and we could start anywhere on this cycle and continue, but we'll start with decreased blood flow for a number of reasons: toxicity, trauma, whatever the issue is. We get a decrease in blood flow. As a result of the decrease in blood flow, we get an increase in inflammation. The body can't get oxygen into the area, and it can't pull the waste products away. And so literally those cells start to bathe in inflammation. As a result of that increased inflammation, we end up with metabolic dysregulation. Now the cells can't utilize or make enough energy, ATP, through the mitochondria because it's not bringing in all the nutrients that it requires. As a result of this metabolic dysregulation and the inflammation building up, we begin to get immune system dysregulation. We get an increase in oxidative stress, leading to either genetic or epigenetic damage, and then eventually cellular damage, and then tissue damage. And as long as we live in that cycle just continues to repeat itself, where tissue damage then goes back to capillary damage, which would further decrease the blood flow, which will further increase the inflammation, and so on. And so this is the chronic illness cycle that we see in so many, sometimes in ourselves or our family, but in so many of the patients that we all treat every day. So what is hyperbaric oxygen? And exactly why is it that I keep saying that hyperbaric oxygen can do something that nothing else can do? Let's get into this. It's all about creating a reservoir of oxygen, more oxygen than we could normally get under normal physiologic conditions. What does that mean? We've all had a pulse oximeter put on our finger before. And ultimately, what is that measuring? That's measuring the percentage of our red blood cells that actually has oxygen attached to it. And so most of us, if you don't have a cardiovascular issue, no lung disorders, for the most part, we're all living somewhere between 96 and 100% oxygenated on our red blood cells, meaning, we can handle maybe 1 or 2 or 3% more oxygen at any time, relative to the amount that we're actually all getting. And so ultimately, we're very close to fully saturated. And what's interesting is we need to be fully saturated virtually every minute of every day just to have normal cell function, normal physiologic function. And so I look at oxygen as a nutrient. Again, we talked a little bit about deficiency. I believe that oxygen at times we could become deficient in. So let's talk about that concept. It's interesting that when it comes to food or water, right? Food, you could go days, you can go weeks, you can go months without eating food and be totally fine. Water, we can go days without water and still survive. But oxygen, we can barely go minutes without resupplying ourselves with a normal amount of oxygen, meaning we need to be almost 100% saturated every minute of every day just to have normal function. Meanwhile, we virtually have zero reservoir of extra oxygen to hold us over, God forbid something go wrong. And so oxygen is not only a nutrient, it's a critical nutrient. It might be the most important nutrient that we get when it comes to cell function and ATP production. And like a vitamin, there's a continuum. Let's use vitamin C as an example. If you don't get enough vitamin C, you could become vitamin C deficient. There's a very specific name for that. It's called scurvy. Meanwhile, so you'd want to get at least as much vitamin C as you would need not to get scurvy. So that's typically the RDA. The RDA is the amount of a vitamin that you need to make sure that you don't show deficiency or sickness as a result of not getting enough. So you'd at least want to get enough that you don't experience scurvy. Likewise, you might want to get a little bit more because you don't want just the minimum amount that you need not to get scurvy. You actually want the optimum amount of vitamin C needed to perform all the different functions that vitamin C does inside of our body. Beyond that, even if you're getting the optimal dose basically every day, there might be times periodically where you choose to mega dose vitamin C well above RDA or well above the optimum range to make sure that you have enough to deal with some issue. Maybe you're going to take more vitamin C because you think you might be getting a cold, or in some cases, somebody might do IV vitamin C, very high dose IV vitamin C because of a condition, let's say like cancer. And so there are these periods of time where mega dosing the vitamin C becomes critical to that patient's recovery. I look at oxygen very similarly. We need a certain amount of oxygen. And if we're not getting that oxygen, we become deficient. A deficiency in oxygen would be called hypoxia. So we certainly want to get enough oxygen not to become hypoxic. And more so, we want to make sure we're getting the optimum range of oxygen on a regular basis. And basically, again, without any heart issues or cardiovascular issues, the optimum range of oxygen is roughly 100% saturation of our red blood cells. Now, even if we're getting close to 99 or 100% saturation in our red blood cells every day, there might be times periodically mega dosing oxygen becomes critical for a patient's recovery. Now, the thing is, there's no way to get more than 100% saturation. 100% is 100%. The only way to get more oxygen into a patient's body than the 100% that they can absorb to their red blood cells is to increase the pressure of their environment. When you increase the pressure of our environment, we change the pressure gradient of how oxygen is absorbed into our body. And that is why hyperbaric does what nothing else can do. So we're going to go through a process to explain that a little bit more detail. The first picture you see shows, a mountain to the left, and then the sky, and those little blue bubbles are just oxygen bubbles. And so what we're trying to show here is that as you go up in altitude, as you climb a mountain, and people know this, if you go to Denver, we all say that there's less oxygen at altitude. That's not exactly true. It's not that there's less oxygen percentage. Oxygen is 21% of our air, whether you're at sea level or whether you're at the top of Mount Everest. Air is 21% oxygen. However, as you go up in altitude, what's happening is you're losing pressure. And so as you lose pressure, those molecules start getting further and further apart from one another. So when you take a breath in, you're just breathing in less molecules. There's less of a driving force of oxygen into your lungs. Likewise, as you descend back towards sea level, those molecules get closer and closer together. And when they're close together, like at sea level, and if you're adapted to sea level pressures, that would get you your 100% saturation of your red blood cells. And so here's just the oxygen surrounding a capillary, let's say in your lungs. And there's a pressure, even right now, I'm at sea level. There's a pressure of my atmosphere, 1 atmosphere. The pressure of 1 atmosphere is enough to start driving that oxygen into the plasma of my blood. And once the oxygen gets into the plasma of my blood, it can get attached to red blood cells and carried throughout my body. As it does that, the red blood cells attach themselves. The oxygen basically is absorbed into the red blood cells, carried throughout your body. And ultimately, this is what we're measuring when we use a pulse oximeter on a finger to show this is the percentage of my red blood cells that are full with oxygen. What's the difference? Well, there's 2 laws. There's really 5 gas laws that govern hyperbaric, but 2 main laws that we talk about the most. So the first one is Boyle's law. The Boyle's law says, as I compress a gas, I can make that gas into a smaller volume. And so those 2 pictures on the side, the first one under Boyle's law is showing that as that bubble is going down in depth, it's getting smaller and smaller because as I go down in depth, the pressure goes up. As the pressure goes up, the size of the volume goes down. The second gas law is Henry's law. Henry's law says once I pressurize that gas and I decrease its volume, if I hold that gas over a liquid, I can dissolve that gas into a fluid. The easiest example to understand is a bottle of seltzer. If you looked at a bottle of seltzer before you opened it, if it had no label, it might just look like water. Until you open that and release the pressure, do you start to see those bubbles coming up. And so what happened was they pressurized a gas. In that case, it was carbon dioxide, and they used water. So they pressurized carbon dioxide, they held it by the water. And so the water absorbed all these bubbles, and then they capped it. As long as you capped it, you trapped all of that gas inside of that liquid. Then as soon as you open that cap, the bubbles start releasing. That's the carbon dioxide coming out of solution. Now, the same thing happens in a hyperbaric chamber, except the gas we're using is oxygen instead of carbon dioxide. And the liquid that we're using is your blood, the plasma of your blood, instead of water. And so when you're in that chamber, you're infusing the liquids of our body with excess oxygen, which is trapping all that excess oxygen into our body. And when we get out of that chamber, they start coming out of solution and also interacting with our cells. And so in a hyperbaric situation, we call it hyperbaric oxygenation. So this increased oxygen, because of this increased pressure, we are able to massively increase not only the pressure, but also the percentages of oxygen. And as we increase the pressure and the percentages of oxygen inside that chamber, we could massively increase the amount of oxygen that's being inhaled and the amount of oxygen that's ultimately being absorbed into the plasma. Now, typically, all of the oxygen in our body right now is being carried on a red blood cell. In the hyperbaric environment, because we're dissolving so much oxygen into the plasma itself, which normally carries very little oxygen, becomes almost an unlimited reservoir of extra oxygen that it can hold because of this excess pressure and the amount that we can absorb into the liquid of our body. And so if we just remember some chemistry rules, diffusion is the movement of molecules down a concentration gradient. Things always move from high concentration to low concentration. This first picture just shows us that whatever there is of pressure or oxygen in the lungs should basically equal the amount of oxygen pressure that eventually will get to our tissues. The rate or the power, the amount of diffusion that occurs is relative to the pressure gradient. So as we increase the amount of molecules that we're breathing into our lungs, with the second picture showing us, it creates a massive shift of pressure gradient. And because the amount of oxygen in the lung is so much greater than the amount of oxygen in our tissue, we're able to suck that oxygen right into our capillaries and dissolve that into the liquid of our blood, ultimately reaching our tissues. And those molecules will continue to move at that rate or that speed because of that change in pressure gradient, all the way until tissue reaches the same saturation as the lung. And so depending on how much pressure we use, depending on the percentage of oxygen we use, and the amount of time that we're in that chamber, those three variables dictate this entire process of improving or increasing the amount of oxygen available, the amount of oxygen we could ultimately absorb into our bodies and into our tissues. What this graph is showing, I pulled this from a study, but it's basically showing two groups, the hyperbaric treatment group and the non-hyperbaric treatment group. And what you can see is those two, on the bar graphs, there's two white lines, and they're basically, whether you were treated with hyperbaric oxygen or not, those two white blocks are virtually the same size. And really what that's saying is, if you're close to 100% saturated, you're 100% saturated. There's really nothing else.
All right, that was a preview looking back at Dr. Jason Sonner's hyperbaric oxygen therapy from Axis 2021. I could geek out on this topic forever. I love learning about it. I think it makes so much sense. If you have more of a performance recovery-based chiropractic practice, this makes so much sense. It can be sold, quote unquote, a la carte. It can be a membership model. And it is just one of those things where the first time I think I saw it was NBA guy had one at home on like MTV Cribs like 15 years ago, and it instantly got my attention. And I think it's really cool to see chiropractors exploring different avenues that tie into recovery and performance in and around their practice. Not for every doc, but if you are interested in those two words, recovery and performance, I think it is something you need to take a look at. Jason?
You know, one of the things I love about the Axis event, and, this isn't a great example, is, our program is called the Smart Chiropractor. Our agenda is to make chiropractors smarter. And we think that's a good and important thing. And whether you're the kind of chiropractor that watches that and goes, that's interesting, I think maybe I'm curious to learn more about doing it. That's one option. You may be the kind of chiropractor that says, wow, that's really interesting. I don't want to do that, but now that I know more about it, I should find a place to refer to. Or you may say to yourself, well, that's interesting. I'm not really going to be referring, but at least now I know and I understand better when people ask me, hey, what's hyperbaric all about? And they look to you as an expert. You are well informed about today's sort of relevant clinical skills and things that are out there that people are going to ask you about. And the more knowledgeable you are about these things, we think the better that is for you and for your patients or clients who depend on you for this type of advice and information. So Jason's a great dude. He's got a lot of good stuff going on. And to your point, Jeff, that you brought up, one of the reasons he made the pivot was very much because of this concept of recurring revenue and being able to offer services that doesn't require him to be bending over the table day in and day out. And that's one of the things when you get out of school and get some financial obligations and maybe even some emotional obligations like kids and family and all those things, the idea of being able to generate revenue beyond just the times and days that you're in your office bending over a table providing services at some point might be a really important thing for you to consider. We'll suggest rather than later you should think about it. And this is one of many different options that you have, but it's a very good one. And you will see, if you don't want to do this, that's okay. You will see more and more membership programs. In fact, last week, I featured a membership program down in Southern California that offers a whole suite of different types of these types of services. Laser services, cryotherapy services, hyperbaric services, sauna, etc. People will be joining memberships for other places in your community very soon, and that's your choice. Do you want to be the place that they come? Do you want to refer people to these places and maybe have a cross-referral relationship, or do you just want to be knowledgeable about them? We're going to always encourage you, make sure you start thinking about monthly recurring revenue for yourself, for your practice. That is your key to freedom. And hopefully you learned a few things there to maybe inch your way forward into taking some action.
Indeed. And be sure to stay tuned for details on Axis 2022 coming up shortly. Jason, thank you so much for presenting at Axis 2021. Let's hop over to our Research That Matters segment on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. Welcome to Research That Matters on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. Research That Matters is the segment of the show where we discuss what our smart chiropractors are talking about each and every week. We love content creation. We believe communication is key to success, and consistency of that communication is the number one thing you need to keep in mind. So we think about content on an annual calendar with monthly campaigns, weekly topics, and daily post across all of those channels where your patients are already hanging out. That means on your email list, across your social channels, in your office, and more. It is the 5th week of May. It's a transitional week between May and June. That means it's a bonus week because we consider a month as 4 weeks. So there are a couple months a year where there are 5 weeks. This is one of them, so we call that a bonus week. And it's a wild card topic. And this month's wild card topic, bonus week, is how to stretch your way to better health. Let's talk about this concept because I think it's important. We've discussed memberships. I've seen stretch zones opening up all over the place, which is a membership stretching facility. That's a conversation for a different day. Let's talk about how this can apply to your practice specifically and some of the key points that our Smart Chiropractor members are talking about this week across their channels, whether it's through the automated emails, the video scripts, etc. Stretching, important topic. It is highly searched. And while you might not want to consider yourself a stretching expert, if you're not answering the question, who is? We ask that question a lot on this show because we think it's imperative that you as a chiropractor are proactively answering the questions people have about their health. And people search how to stretch a lot and how it ties into their health. So that's where the subject line or the headline of how to stretch your way to better health came into play. Now, without going line by line into our scripts, here are a couple of the key concepts. 1, most people have no idea about the difference between dynamic and static stretching. So we explore that in the weekly topic for all of our members, a very, very core concept. The other thing that this ties into is pretty much one step in front of the other. This isn't a stretch. Movement is essential and key to life, whether it's spinal or whether it's extremity. And stretching allows your body to, in theory, go through a full range of motion. And anytime there's motion in a joint, that increases range of motion, increases blood flow to the area, lubricates the joint, so to speak, for better performance, better functional movement. And a lot of that starts with stretching, but people have no idea how to apply it to where they are at. Maybe they are gym rats. Maybe they want to get in the gym. Maybe they haven't thought about a gym in 20 years. These are all different levels of activity. Now, movement is critical to all, but how they apply that is different. So when you get out there with this week's material, if you're a Smart Chiropractor member and we're doing it for you, or if you want to take some of these ideas and put them into your own language, that would be awesome. Lead the way with the conversation around stretching. Help people understand the difference between static stretching and movement-based dynamic stretching. That is one of those aha key moments. The other important aspect is this allows you to easily take one step to tie stretching, movement, flexibility back to what you do segmentally, regionally, whole body, with the chiropractic care that you deliver, whether it's a spinal adjustment, whether it's, rehab, whether it's a gym space, whatever it might be, it ties in to movement. And stretching not only is a great thing for reducing risk of injury, it's a great thing to maintain adequate motion, and it is a fantastic way to improve function if done right. So tying that all together, if nobody in your community is leading that charge, you should be the one to do it. That's just my opinion. Jason, what do you think?
Well, the fact is, you mentioned it earlier. I see it here on the West Coast as well. There are people leading the charge in the community, whether it's your local gym and they've got personal trainers who are doing stretching sessions now. There are full retail locations called stretch labs and different ways of having people come in to stretch, not even a massage, but just to stretch them. And, I think my take on this is that this has more to do with what I'm going to call translating culture than it does with changing anything in your philosophy or the way you do it. We all know this is an important part of staying well, of conditioning yourself, of being flexible, of moving, of not just sitting statically every day, all day. Stretches have always been a part of our conversation, oftentimes giving people homework to do at home that they often don't do. Now, whether you want to make this a business for yourself or not, that is not as much the issue as much as it is understanding the conversations that are going on in people's mind in your community. They're going to have people and friends that go, oh, I went to this new stretch place. It was awesome. Do you do that? Do you agree with it? What do you think of it? You should understand what these different places do so you're knowledgeable about them. But two, we're going to keep impressing upon you and encouraging you to think in terms of memberships and subscriptions so you can have new ways of generating monthly recurring revenue. And stretching might be one of those services you may want to create a membership around, just like a massage club or some other proactive monthly service. I know a lot of chiropractors struggle to get their brains around the idea of proactive chiropractic care. In some cases, people think that chiropractic is really limited to the relief and the reacting, not proactive, but reacting to symptoms or different types of chronic problems. If that's you, then you have to find something else that is proactive, that would be appropriate to offer on at least once a month basis. So this is another one of those things, and it's a great conversation to have. And it's a step to a step. Here's the bottom line. Most people have no idea what the word chiropractic means. They don't have any idea what a chiropractor does. And the reason is because we all do things slightly differently. We don't even agree ourselves necessarily on the definition of what chiropractic is and what a chiropractor does collectively as a profession. How is it possible that the public would actually understand it themselves? So, on being able to communicate with people where they are. There's very few people that go, I don't believe in stretching. Oh, I'm against stretching. My doctor told me not to stretch. Those conversations don't happen with these other types of things the way they do with chiropractic. So to meet people where they are and have conversations with them and teach and invite them consistently about the things they're asking about, they're interested in, they're learning more about, they're being offered by others. I think I've even got mailers and other promotions, whether it's through new acupuncture stores, stretching stores, all these different places that offer these different types of services, as we've mentioned in previous segments: sauna, hyperbaric, cryotherapy, wellness, proactive services are here to stay. The question is the chiropractic profession, are you as a chiropractor going to get with the times, get with the trends, and lead them? Are you going to watch them? Or are you just going to go, well, they still don't understand us. Once again, chiropractic loses and everybody else wins. So that's our choice collectively. It always reminds me, my good friend Guy Riechman used to always say, when people ask him, and they would ask him all the time, where do you see the future of chiropractic going? I'll even ask, where do you see the future of your practice going? Answer, wherever you or we decide to take it. So these are the ideas you want to be thinking about. These are the options you, as the owner, director, leader, creator of your practice, of your life, of your dreams, you get to make these choices. We're here to help you out. Hopefully you're getting smarter each and every time you're watching the Smart Chiropractor show. Great segment, Jeff. Thanks for bringing it up.
My pleasure. Docs out there, be sure if you are a Smart Chiropractor member that you have all of your automations enabled and up and running. And we're going to encourage you, take those video scripts. If you want to take it to the next level and get best results, utilize those blog posts, video scripts that we give you, and get out there, spread the word, and the energy that you put out will come back into your practice. And speaking of blog posts, let's take a look at how one of our members is doing it on today's Member Highlights segment. Welcome to Member Highlights on today's Smart Chiropractor show. Member Highlights is pretty self-explanatory. It's when we highlight a member of the Smart Chiropractor that's doing awesome things to get out there and teach and invite in their community. And today we're going to take a look at Dr. Bailey of Spine in Motion Chiropractic Rehab. I'm going to share my screen right here, and we'll take a look at Dr. Bailey utilizing the Smart Chiropractor blog post. So this is one of those high impact activities. If you are somebody that likes to have more people come to your website, if you're somebody that likes to check out how many new patients are scheduling from your website, if you are somebody that likes to teach, or if you are somebody that utilizes Google ranking as a way to generate new patients in your practice, then having awesome content consistently published on your website is a great way to juice those results. And we provide all of our members' blog posts each and every week that you can post to your website. Keywords are preloaded for you. The meta descriptions are there. We give you the beautiful graphics that you can see up on the screen. So all you have to do is copy and paste, and we even suggest some areas in those blogs where you can customize with your practice name and your practice city or town to maximize that local search. So you have access to this. If you are a member, you have access to all of these blog posts inside of the members area. Be sure to check that out at thesmartchiropractor.com. And all you have to do is, again, take that blog post, get it up on your website, and build that library. For many of you out there, you might control your own website, and that's a pretty self-explanatory, easy way to go about it. However, if you do not, if you use a website service, just reach out to that service and ask if they can get these blogs up for you. It should be absolutely no issue for any reputable website company to put these up there, easy peasy, and many will be happy to do it. So if you're having any challenges, be sure to reach out to us and our team, and we'll be happy to recommend website services and companies that we work with that make your life easier and are really there to generate the best results for you and your practice. Dr. Bailey is doing a great job getting these blog posts up there. You can see he has them stacked months and months back as we continue to scroll down. So he's building a fantastic library of content that people can explore, people can get to know who he is, what he's about, and he can build trust at a supremely high level. So I'll take one step back and say one more thing about this. Think about somebody going to your website for the first time. Maybe it's not their first time, but think about the first time visitor. They don't know who you are. They're probably a little apprehensive. Maybe they got the issue going on and they're not sure what to do. And as they explore your website, do you think it would make a good impression if you had this type of content? Great content in consumer speak, showcasing who you are and what you do. I think it is imperative and it is essential for all of us as chiropractors to have a fantastic library of blog posts and content just like this on your website. Just this piece of the Smart Chiropractor alone is worth the cost of admission, and it's a fantastic investment. If you're already especially paying for a website, make sure you're getting everything you can out of it. And again, your website provider should be happy to help you along with that journey. Jason, what are your thoughts on how Dr. Bailey is utilizing blogs on his website to generate more interest, traffic, and I'm sure the ever popular word conversions into his practice?
I think it's awesome. And hopefully what he and everybody else is doing is using these as basically topic starters, conversation starters. The model we teach is teach and invite consistently. We do our best to do that with you, and hopefully you're doing your best to do that with your community, with your health tribe, whether it's in your practice, whether it's emailing newsletters to your patients on a weekly basis, whether it's doing live video and letting people know, hey, this week we're going to be talking about fill in the blank. And, many chiropractors are trapped in the paralysis by analysis trap, which is, well, I would do it. I would teach more, but I just don't have the time. I don't have the energy. It takes a lot of work to teach something well, making sure it's research-based, making sure it's well-designed, making sure that it's concise and to the point and not all over the place. And that is exactly what you get when you are a member of the Smart Chiropractor. This is one of many ways to, as they call it, repurpose content you get into a variety of different ways. Blog posts, SEO, first impressions are a great way to use it. Way to go, Dr. Bailey. And if you're not already a member, you're not sure if you're new to the conversation, well, blog posts, what's a blog post going to do? It's much larger than that. It is a toolkit. A hammer doesn't do much by itself except for hammer. But if you've got a toolkit, you can build almost anything. If you've got a toolkit and a little bit of knowledge on how to build, you can make major things happen. And that's what we're doing here. We are giving you a digital marketing or digital communication toolkit with a whole variety of different tools. And the skill is in knowing what do you want to build and which tools do you need to use in order to build what it is you envision. Again, just about every house, every building, everything you've ever seen built uses many of the same tools. But if you see something different, it's not that they had a better hammer, a better screwdriver, a better tool per se. It's that they know how to use the tools to build the most amazing things they'd like to build. That's the magic we want to provide for you. It's not just here you go, good luck to you. It's here you go. What do we want to build together? What would you like to dream about and create for you, your practice, and your community? We've got the resources, we've got the training, we've got the motivation and inspiration. You just got to show up and engage with us, and let's make magic happen. So great job, Dr. Bailey. Keep up the good work. And to all of you, do what Dr. Bailey does and more. If you've got questions, leave them down below. Join us in our private Facebook group, smartchirogroup.com. If you're not already a member, ask questions. You got something you want to build, you're not sure how to build it? Let us know. Together, we can make major, amazing things happen. You're invited to come check us out and see what's going on over there so we can help you build it. So, Jeff, great choice. And there's just so many different ways to use it. Blog is one of many ways. I love to see more and more chiropractor content creators, those who are both using our materials that are beautifully designed, posting them, sharing them, emailing them. But I also love when chiropractors go, wait a minute, I can teach this. Thank you for all of these resources. I'll take it from here. And then they just go next level. And that's where you really get the personal connection. That's where chiropractors see that you're investing in more than just teaching them something or having us teach them something. You get involved as well. That's where you get sort of the jab hook, as Gary Vaynerchuk talks about. And that's where you're going to find your highest level of success.
I could not agree more. Dr. Bailey, fantastic work. And if you are listening and watching, you'd love to learn more about how you can get your hands on those blog posts amongst a host of other great tools to teach and invite consistently, head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. Again, that is thesmartchiropractor.com. Let's head over to our featured guest segment on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. Welcome to the featured guest segment on today's Smart Chiropractor show. If you have a chiropractic practice, you probably are aware that one of the biggest challenges is staffing. Finding a fantastic team to help build and grow your dream practice is a little easier said than done. And team challenges are one of the number one stunters of growth in so many chiropractic practices around the world. We're fortunate to have the opportunity to sit down with Adriana Loya of Chiro Matchmakers and talk about how to hire fantastic chiropractic assistants. She's helped hundreds of docs do just that. Jason and I were happy to sit down, ask her a bunch of questions, and if you are looking to build and grow your practice this year, next year, or in the future, you're going to love this interview and discover a lot of nuggets that you can take and move forward when building and growing your team. So without further ado, here's Jason and I's interview with Adriana Loya. Hey, Smart Chiropractors, Dr. Jeff here with my co-host, Dr. Jason, and this is a Smart Chiropractor show. In today's featured guest segment, we have Adriana Loya from Chiro Matchmakers to talk about staffing and training specifically relative to chiropractic assistants. Adriana, thanks for taking some time today and coming on chatting with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
You got it. And I want to pick it up right there. I want to say one thing first, a little bit of disclosure. I do help Chiro Matchmakers with marketing, so we know each other on the side. But I know you and I have chatted a bunch about the biggest challenges that docs face with staffing. Many docs out there have high turnover. They're not sure who or how to hire. What are maybe one or two of the biggest challenges that you see when docs are trying to hire a chiropractic assistant on their own?
I think number one challenge is that doctors are very busy running a practice and taking care of their patients, and they just don't really have the proper time that it takes to vet the candidates, post ads all over the internet, and go after the right person for the position. So I think the number one problem is going to be the doctor doesn't really have the proper time. And then the second problem is that, I mean, no disrespect, but doctors are not staffing experts. They went to school to be chiropractors and they love what they do and they're amazing at what they do, but they're not experts in hiring the right person for the position that they have available. So I think those are the two main challenges that I see.
You would be describing me when I was in practice. Time wasn't as much the issue, but the second part of really knowing how do you find the right person for the position? It would seem obvious, they're nice and they're polite and, they can answer the phone and they can take direction. But my experience says it's a lot more than that. So what can you share with everybody about what chiropractors really should be looking for in a CA that they're probably not looking for? And then I'll get into, how do you help chiropractors do that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in that respect is that we tend to hire based on technical requirements, experience. We look at the resume and we get excited when we see a candidate that has solid experience that is relatable to what we're looking for. But the biggest thing that we need to look at is people hire for technical reasons, but they fire for behavioral issues. So I think that a major component that is lacking in the hiring process for most chiropractors is that, yes, they're taking a look at resume, background, and experience, but they're not really taking a look at how is this person built on a behavioral standpoint? Are they naturally hardwired for the position that I have available? Another thing that I tend to see a lot is that we want to hire that unicorn that can do really great at every single aspect of the practice. Somebody that is super detailed oriented, but they're also super friendly and outgoing and can promote our workshops and our events. And so we need to make sure that we're clearly defining what is my job description? What am I looking for? And going after that individual that is going to fit those requirements.
That's an interesting point because I think, often us as chiropractors, we believe everybody should be living chiropractic lifestyle. And quite frankly, we're a pretty small pond. So, to find somebody that has experience in a chiropractic practice that's going to come in and basically be a cultural fit can sometimes be challenging. Often we might be hiring somebody that doesn't have experience in a chiropractic practice in the past. How do you think about, or, and this might tie into some of the behavioral aspects, but when you think about establishing a culture fit, number one, how important is that in a practice from what you've seen? And number two, what are some steps perhaps that you take within Chiro Matchmakers to really ensure that there's a proper cultural fit?
That's a great question, Jeff. When hiring somebody, it is very important that they're going to be a good cultural fit to our company and for them to be able to embody our values. But you hit it right on the nail. It is very challenging to find somebody that wants to be a chiropractic assistant and they have that previous experience within the chiropractic world. It is living a wellness lifestyle. Sadly, the reality is that in our country, not a lot of people are very wellness minded, right? So you can have the best behavioral fit for the position. They have applicable experience, meaning, maybe they've worked at another doctor's office, or, they're good with billing, or they've been a previous office manager. So they have good experience. But if they are not willing to embrace a wellness lifestyle, it may not be the best fit for your office. So what we do is we want to discover that through our interview process. We want to make sure that we have a good fit on a resume standpoint and then a good fit on a behavioral standpoint. But then once we're interviewing that candidate, we want to gauge how open are they? Are they already living some of those key components of chiropractic in their lifestyles, or at least are they willing to embrace it? Are they willing to learn, or are they just really not interested in this type of industry? So I think that to answer your question is it's not really something that you can precisely measure through an assessment. It's more about having an open, honest conversation with those candidates, engaging their interests that way.
I've spoken to lots of chiropractors who have had this exact problem over many years of trying to just find the right person. And I know we've sort of brought it up or not, but I just want to sort of ask you directly, is it better to have somebody who's worked in a chiropractic practice before and, has the benefit of hopefully understanding how to run a practice, hopefully understanding what chiropractic is, or is it better off finding somebody who just has the right skills, the right attitude, but perhaps no experience, and then they can be trained in the ways you do it uniquely in your specific practice? And, I know you work with a lot of different kinds of practices, and just because you're trained in one type of practice doesn't necessarily mean you're going to qualify or be good at another practice. And sometimes that can be a hindrance. What are your thoughts on that?
I would go with the second option. It is better to have the raw materials, have a person that has the innate abilities to fit really well in your practice, rather than going off after somebody that has a lot of experience, that they maybe have worked in a chiropractor's office. Just like you said, there's so many different types of practices and practice styles that just because they've worked at a chiropractor's office, it doesn't mean that they're going to bring a great culture or great experience into our practice. So I would rather hire somebody from outside the chiropractic world that has the criteria that I'm looking for, and then coach them, mentor them, teach them our ways. And I think that they'll do a lot better that way.
That's very interesting, because I look at many chiropractic practices and I think everybody's going to empathize with what I'm about to say. It seems like people either stay forever or they're gone in 6 months, right? It's like, people have, chiropractic assistants, CAs, office individuals, office managers, COOs in some cases that have been with them 20 to 25 years. And then, others, the positions seem to cycle through. And this might tie into maybe a little bit of culture, maybe a little behavioral assessment. I'll let you tell me, but what are some of those challenging points? Like, what have you seen in terms of what makes and enables people to stick versus go through that high turnover and high churn? Because that's such a progress killer in so many docs' offices when they can't stay staffed up. What have you seen in terms of what makes the difference that makes the difference?
So there's several factors that we could look into. So touching back on behavior, that's a very big factor in the longevity of an employee staying with us and being really happy in what they do. A lot of times I have practice owners come to me because they're struggling with the current CA. They're on their way out. They know it. They know that they have a very limited amount of time left with that one person because they're expressing that they're not happy. They're not learning quickly. There's a lot of friction in the team. And so what happens is that when you are let's use the word forcing. When you're forcing somebody to have a job with a job description that goes completely against their natural behavioral traits, that person is going to be very frustrated. They are going to be very stressed out in that position. So if you hire somebody, for example, I'll give you a very practical example. If you hire somebody for the front desk and you're expecting them to be friendly and poised and bubbly and that outgoing personality, but you hire an introvert for that job, they're not going to like it. They're going to be super stressed out. And if they're loyal, if they like what you got going on, and if maybe you're paying well, they may put up with it for a while. They may show up and try to do their best, but they're never going to be excellent at what they do. And so what ends up happening is either they get fired or they quit just because they are going against the current. They're having a job that is not satisfying for them, and they're having to put up this persona when they show up to work that is not who they truly are. Right. And so in the same way, if you hire somebody to do your billing or your HR or your administrative tasks, if they're that outgoing, flamboyant personality that wants to be where people are at and they want to be the center of attention, well, they're going to have a really hard time focusing and being quiet and staying in a room locked up 8 hours in a day doing data entry, right? So that's a major component. Another thing is, or another factor would be, a lot of times we see that chiropractic practices are losing their team members because they're losing them to another business that is offering them something better. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of competition out there. So if you're a practice owner and you're looking at your current team members, and you're happy with them, they're doing great, the best thing that you can do is do a little bit of market research. Make sure that you're compensating your people competitively so that they're not going to get snatched up by a recruiter or another company. And I mean, I'm sure that I could list a few other factors, but I think those are the two main components that I see.
All right, Adriana. So what's a chiropractor to do? What do you find to be the most common options? I know there's all kinds of job sites, Craigslist, asking friends, going out to dinner more and finding the friendly waiter or waitress and trying to pick and choose. What are the options of what chiropractors have out there? I guess I'll add to that, and hiring agencies, but also chiro-specific agencies. Can you sort of lay out the kind of breakdown of what the options are and perhaps why they should choose you as their best option?
Yeah, of course. I would highly advise that any chiropractor that is looking to grow their team, expand their team, and learn to hire the right way, that they do outsource their hiring. Again, they are such busy practitioners trying to run a business, and they just don't really have enough time to do that well on their own. So instead of, paying attention at dinner and trying to hire the waiter or the waitress, I would advise that they outsource, that they look at a company. I know that there is a couple of companies out there in the market that specialize specifically in the chiropractic industry. I would advise that you go with the experts. For example, ChiroMatchmakers was founded by chiropractors. We work for chiropractors. I myself was a chiropractic assistant for about a year, and then I became the office manager. And I was running 5 chiropractic offices in Albuquerque, New Mexico for a few years before I came on board with ChiroMatchmakers. So I wouldn't just go with any staffing agency. I would go with the staffing agency that really knows what they're doing and that really has insights into the chiropractic industry and knows how an office runs.
That is impactful, Adriana. And I know the inside baseball. I know that there's over a dozen, recruiting specialists working, full time over in ChiroMatchmakers HQ, which is where you are at. But for the docs out there that maybe are totally unfamiliar with this, they've never worked with a staffing or recruiting agency, it's exciting and sometimes intimidating when you're bringing on a new team member. Can you just outline at a high level, like, what's the process look like? If a doc was interested in engaging with ChiroMatchmakers to bring on that next CA, what could they expect? How does the process go? And just can you outline that for us?
So at Chiro Matchmakers, we take all the busy work away from the doctors so that they can focus on their patients and on their practice. And so what we do is we build what we call an avatar for the ideal candidate. So we have a consultation with the doctor or the practice owner, and we take a look at their practice dynamics, their practice culture. We take a look at the job description. And once we have the job description, then we build that avatar based on 3 different sets of criteria. The first criteria is going to be background, any technical requirements, experience for the position. Second is going to be cognitive abilities. And that's something that I had not mentioned before. You could have the best personality for that position, but if they're not intelligent, if they're not sharp enough for the position, they're going to have a very hard time learning everything that they have to learn in a proper time frame. So we test candidates for cognitive abilities, making sure that they can problem solve, multitask, digest and apply new information, making sure that they can memorize scripting and just be up to speed with your training quickly. And then the third set of criteria is going to be behavioral traits. So based on that job description, we make a recommendation as far as what type of behavior that person needs to have to do really well in that position. And so once we have that avatar built out, then we relentlessly look everywhere to find that person, and we interview those candidates. Once we have people that match the criteria that we're looking for, then we present them to the business owner so that they can further interview and choose who they want to hire. So in a nutshell, that would be our process.
That is fantastic. Obviously, you don't do what you do for free. I don't think we'll talk fees here necessarily, but there is an investment to having, or outsourcing, as you say, having somebody kind of an expert or a team of experts handle this for you. What about those docs who are saying, money's tight, I can do this, or maybe they have a friend or family member or a spouse who's like, I used to run HR, or I used to be in HR, or I worked at a company that hired people, or whatever it may be. What do you find to be some of the consequences of trying to go it alone, do it yourself? And, what have you seen perhaps as, the cost, not necessarily the investment in finding somebody good, but the cost of hiring somebody that may not necessarily stay with you long term? I'm sure that unfortunately happens quite common. What do people need to know about kind of the long-term expense of having somebody who maybe just isn't up to par as much as they should be or could be? Or I know some people refer to it as a staph infection that just grows over time. What are your thoughts on that experience?
Yeah, Jason, if we want to put a money value on hiring the wrong person, hiring the wrong team member is going to cost you 3 to 5 times their salary. Finding the right person is going to bring so much value into your practice. You mentioned staph infection. That is huge. You could have an amazing team going on, and then you bring the wrong person on board. They bring the wrong culture. They infect your team members, and then you may have 2 or 3 people quit after that one hire. And so you are just going to be bleeding money out the door. So definitely hiring the wrong person, it is a huge loss of money. And then it's also a huge loss of momentum. If you don't have the right person on board in your practice, you are going to slow down your growth. Your plans are going to go out the drain. And instead of focusing on your growth and reaching the people that you want to reach, now you're going to have to deal with the headache of this bad apple that now is infecting the rest of your team and what you're going to do about them. And it's just mentally so stressful to have to deal with a bad employee that, you know that eventually you're going to have to get rid of.
Yeah, impeding progress is difficult. I know we've spoken and talked about, whether docs had their best year last year or whether they struggled. In both cases, they might be looking, to expand, grow, or change their team, and doing it the right way is so important. Adriana, I see what you do behind the scenes and your expertise in this space, and I want to thank you for coming on and sharing. Docs out there listening and watching, if you are looking to build, grow, or expand your team this year, head over to Chiro Matchmakers, whether it's a chiropractic assistant, whether it's a chiropractic associate, or whether it's coverage services. They can definitely help. Adriana, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today. It has been invaluable, and hopefully you opened up some eyes for a new way to hire beyond doing it yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great interview with Adriana from Chiro Matchmakers. Staffing ain't easy. It is difficult to build and grow a team. all of us probably have felt that pain at some point in time. So any advantage that you can have to find fantastic long-term people who are going to be around you, help the practice grow, help your vision come to life, and help people in your community, I think it is a great way to go about it. Jason and I know you and I have both historically had this struggle, ourselves. Building a team is not the easiest thing in the world.
Far from it. It might rank up there as the top. At least it's the top 3 reasons why I struggled in practice was finding a great team. Being in Northern California during the internet boom, when everybody thought they were going to be a millionaire, and the times and places that I was made it very difficult to find a good, qualified, enthusiastic, passionate team. Staph infections are common. And one of the most important things you can do, of course, is make sure you hire the right people. Getting help anywhere you can is a really smart idea to save yourself a lot of pain and frustration later. So great to have this new resource for our profession.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. If you'd like to learn more, head over to chiromatchmakers.com. But on today's show, let's head over to our strategic marketing segment. Welcome to Strategic Marketing on today's Smart Chiropractor show. This is when we get tactical. And the topic of today's conversation is going to be optimizing your chiropractic YouTube channel. If you're a Smart Chiropractor member, head over to the members area and the vault where you have a full optimization guide available that will walk you through step by step how to optimize your YouTube channel. I wanted to pull out a few of those key points and talk about it on today's show. If you are somebody that has a YouTube channel, you probably already know this, but YouTube is owned by Google, and it is the second largest search engine on planet Earth besides Google itself. So this is a place where many chiropractors have opened many eyes to who they are and what they do. But to be found, there are some optimization steps you are going to want to at least be in tune with, keep aware of, so that as you post those videos, you can get the most views possible, because the goal is not that you're posting a video into oblivion, but that people out there find you and your message. So a couple key points as you consider optimizing your YouTube channel as a chiropractor. 2 things come to mind for me. Make the viewing experience easy. That is number 1. So create playlists. Playlists are take individual videos and it creates a playlist similar to on Spotify or whatever else you think about it, like music. You can do the same thing with your videos. So you can categorize different playlists. You could go by body region, you could go by topic, you could go by campaign if you're a Smart Chiropractor member and have different videos for each monthly campaign. You get to choose how you want to create those playlists, but here is why playlists are so important. Number 1, when somebody looks at your channel, if there's a topic of interest or a playlist of interest, that is a great way to improve the user experience. Now, the beauty of it is when you create a playlist, one video goes into the next. So if somebody tunes into playlist A on your YouTube channel and watches video 1 in that playlist, coming right up after it is video number 2, video number 3, video number 4. So basically, people can binge watch your videos in a meaningful way. That increases the time viewed. That increases YouTube's desire to show your videos to more people in search. And it gets you the result you want, which is more people tuning into more of your videos. So creating playlists is something many docs overlook, but is critically important to increasing that overall view time. Second tip that I wanted to pull out of that optimization guide, available to all members. And again, if you are a member, head over to the members area, check out the vault. You'll find this optimization guide with these tips and many, many more. We also show you step-by-step how to accomplish this. Tip number 2, 1 was playlist. 2 are dial in those thumbnails. This has been something he's been working on even within the Smart Chiropractor on our YouTube channel. Thumbnails are like the headline. A compelling thumbnail will entice people to click on the video. A crappy thumbnail is going to get crappy results. No better way to say it than that. An uninspired thumbnail is not going to inspire somebody to click to watch the video. You don't need to get crazy and sensational with it, but what you do need to be is clear and enticing. So ensure that your thumbnails, if you're just using the default, which YouTube, if you don't put up a thumbnail, YouTube will choose a millisecond, a frame of your video and put it there. Sometimes you can have an awkward face. Sometimes it could be the camera's facing the floor for that second. You don't want that sort of stuff, right? So creating a thumbnail that has a clear title or a keyword of what the video is about, great idea. A nice bold graphic. And something action oriented. The beauty of what we do as chiropractors is it's movement based. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to create action oriented. The picture on the thumbnail can be action oriented, you in action, a patient responding, whatever it might be. That is the point of that video. You can probably very easily as a chiropractor have a nice action oriented image, have a nice bold keyword. And I don't mean keywords necessarily like you have to geek out on all the specifics, but what's the video about? If it's about the cervical spine or the neck, you probably want to have a thumbnail that indicates something about the neck in the picture and something about the cervical spine or the neck with the text overlay on it. So big, bold graphics will help more people click. It'll entice more people to click onto that video and get those into a playlist. That helps the user experience. It kicks up your view time. It gets more of what you desire. If you're putting those videos out there, spending the time, effort, energy to do so, you want to make sure people find them and you want to make sure people consume the content. Playlists, great thumbnails, 2 ways amongst a host of many more to optimize your YouTube channel. Jason, what do you think?
Well, you are talking about an important topic because one, this is optimizing your YouTube channel. Those are really great, I'll even say essential tips to optimize. I'll take a step prior to optimizing, and that's talking about having a YouTube channel altogether. If you're optimizing, that's great. If you're a Smart Chiropractor member, hopefully you have your YouTube channel, you're using the videos we give you and that we're posting for you and that you are promoting them in some particular way, talking about them. But the number one place to start is to think about what are you teaching and inviting consistently. And that relates to one of the segments we had earlier in today's show around mindset, which is what is your voice? What is your message? What is your mission? What is the point of doing what you do? What should people learn that they need to know to want more of what it is that you're offering? And how do you teach that to people on a consistent basis? And YouTube is a wonderful place to do that. There's a lot of, you've heard the term podcasts that are out there, and there are a lot of podcasts that are actually just YouTube videos. These names are somewhat interchangeable these days. It doesn't have to be audio only downloaded to a iPod, which is the original intention of it. It is one, maybe two, maybe even several people talking, often on video. And you see the Joe Rogans and all the other popular podcasters have a YouTube channel where they share more and more about what they're saying in their longer format. So bottom line is this is yet another great distribution channel, an amplifier of sorts. But the key is, Jeff talked about optimizing. The question is, what are you optimizing? Now, if you're a Smart Chiropractor member, you're optimizing the videos that we post for you and do for you. But if you're not, you're going to need to come up and create your own content. You're going to have to come up with your own ideas, your own topics, your own titles, your own graphics. Those things that need to then be optimized. We provide most of that for our members. If you're not a member, you'll do it on your own. Either way, it doesn't matter to us. We just want to make sure that you're doing it, that you're getting it done, that it's enough about complaining why people don't understand chiropractic, why people don't understand what you do in your practice. The solution is letting more people know by teaching them something that would inspire them to want to learn more. I didn't say the thing to do is to make sure your price is so ridiculously low that it would be crazy for them to not come in and waste your time and ask you a bunch of questions when they're really not that interested in what you do. I said, teach them what you do, teach them why you do it, teach them how they can benefit from what you do in our teach and invite consistently format. Do it consistently, get it out there, and you will find, as we have interviewed many, many, many chiropractic content creators at this point, who consistently report the same feedback. When people watch your videos, when people learn from you, and then come into your practice, They are different. They are different than the deal shopper. They are different than the person who searched you because they were in chronic pain and you were the closest option they could find. They are different. They are there because they have learned from you. They've made a decision that they know, now like, and trust you. And typically they come in not wondering if they should or shouldn't start care, but excited to start care. And there's almost a celebrity status that many of these chiropractors report, that people come in with patients actually saying, I feel like I know you. Thank you for doing these videos. Thank you for taking the time and making the investment to put this information out there so I can find it. And I feel so fortunate I can come in and actually get to see you. That's how it's working for those who are doing it. If it's not working for you, that probably means you're not doing it. If you want those kinds of results, that's the way to get them. And we are here to help you every step along the way. So great choice, Jeff. And I love seeing content creators, chiropractic content creators, get out there. We've been doing a lot of interviews with them. And every single time it just gets more and more inspiring, because wouldn't you know it, when you follow the instructions and you do the basics, it works. It's an amazing thing to see and to watch. And I applaud those who are doing it.
I could not agree more. Well done to everybody shooting YouTube videos, getting it out there, and use those optimization tips if you have a channel, and help yourself get more eyeballs, more view count, and more reach to what you are up to. So that is it for our strategic marketing segment. Let's head to our last segment on today's show, which is all about business principles. Welcome to Business Principles on today's Smart Chiropractor show. Our topic of the day: what can chiropractors learn from Amazon? What are the most important things you as a chiropractor can learn from that little itty bitty startup company called Amazon? I think there is a lot to learn from what they have accomplished, and many, you might think that is a trillion-dollar company or multi-billion-dollar company. My practice is not that size. These are such different business models. There are differences, but there might be more similarities than you initially give credit for. Jason, what do chiropractors out there need to know? What are the most important things, I should ask you, that chiropractors can learn from Amazon?
You know, I'll name a few, and then I'm sure I won't get to all of them, so you can add those that I miss. But you know, one of them is that Amazon has an obsessive focus on the user experience. That when people come, they are really concerned about the experience they have. And I think that's an important lesson for us as chiropractors, to really sort of reverse engineer, not just how do we want to do it, but also, I didn't say instead of, I said also, what is it that people perceive? How do they see the experience? How does it feel to them? Do they like it? Do they enjoy it? Do they love it? Does it make them want to come back for more? Is it easy? Is it convenient? Amazon is known for creating the one-click shop or checkout, I should say. Why? Well, because one click is easier than 2 clicks. And you'd think, well, what's the big deal? 2 clicks, 3 clicks, 4 clicks, it's just a click. These details matter, and 1 seems to be the magic number. So that is a byproduct of this obsessive focus on the user experience. I'd recommend the same. The other big one that comes out, or I should say another one that comes to me, is that they are really well known for what I've referred to as a suggestion engine. People who like this also bought that. People who looked at this also looked at that. There's a Seth Godin quote that we talk about often in this concept of building a health tribe, that people like us do things like this. And when you have that psychology of not just being a desperate chiropractor trying to get new patients, which is one specific conversation, but when you shift and pivot to being an expert who cares about people, who wants to generously share as much information as possible to inspire them to want to take better care of themselves and learn more about their health and well-being and what they can do for themselves, then all of a sudden you position yourself as an expert, as a leader, as a guide, as someone who generously wants to help other people, and that happens to be super attractive. So when you make suggestions, oh, you're asking about this question, let me suggest, if you're looking for a supplement, people like us take things like this. If you're looking for home exercise information, people like us do things like this. If you'll use that recommendation idea that you're not selling them anything, you're recommending things for them because they've shown you their intent for some interest in information or a product, you are taking it to a higher level of service, just like Amazon. The third one I'll get into without going too far, probably could do a whole couple hours on this because they are a $1 trillion company that has just been amazing and really is, I think, wowed everyone in the world. Nobody thought what Jeff Bezos was up in the 90s would turn into what it turned into, perhaps except for him. But the most valuable thing I think these days that we can look at and learn from Amazon is subscribe and save. Just about every product I go to that there is a subscription option on Amazon, wouldn't you know the default recommendation they give me is, don't you want to subscribe to this? Now, are they doing that for their benefit because they make more money that way? I actually think they're doing it for my benefit, because if I want a consumable product, a cleaning product, a supplement, something that you need to continually purchase over and over again, a busy guy like me would really appreciate just drop shipping it every month so I can buy it once and not over and over and over again. I have to forget. I have to then go somewhere locally. I look for it on sale. I then stop taking it because I don't want to go buy another one. All the different factors that can get into discontinuing my use of the product, when the smart thing to have done would have been to suggest subscribe and save from the get-go. Just like joining a gym. You're not joining a gym to go that day. You're joining a gym to get an outcome. And if you had to pay per visit to go to the gym, you probably would never get that outcome because it's more expensive and it's more time consuming, and it doesn't incentivize you to want to get the outcome. Well, if somebody's taking supplements, they want the best price and they should be taking it indefinitely. And again, I'll make sure I'm clear. I don't mean therapeutic supplements that you only take for a limited period of time for something to go away or to happen and then you stop taking it. I'm talking about those basic, fundamental, what we call everybody, everyday supplements, the things you take now and will probably take some form of forever. Those are the types of things that should be conveniently drop shipped to my door, to your door. I get a monthly drop shipped. So you know what? I never have to think about it. I go, great, there it is. One less hassle. So those are the three I think that are kind of the top ones. Focus on user experience. Make sure that you are making suggestions. You know, hey, what should I take? I recommend these things. And when you make those recommendations, if it is appropriate for it to be on some sort of subscription basis, offer the discount to subscribe and save. Whether they come to your office and pick it up on their monthly visit to your office and you go, oh, here's your subscribe and save supplements this month. We'll see you next month for an adjustment and a bottle of the supplements again. Or whether you have it drop shipped to their home. Maybe they live locally and they come to your office. Maybe they don't live locally. Maybe you do your YouTube videos and you do your your Instagram, your Facebook. You're getting your message out there, but they don't live close and you want to generate some recurring revenue. Well, be like Amazon. Subscribe and save and have your favorite supplements drop shipped to their door anywhere in the United States and start building yourself some recurring revenue while serving other people at a higher level. That is a great 1-2 punch that I recommend to as many chiropractors as possible. Why? Because I want you to become a nutritionist and deviate from being a chiropractor? No. Why? Because generating monthly recurring revenue is your key to freedom. When your monthly recurring revenue meets your monthly recurring expenses, you are automatically covering all of your expenses. As we've taught before, we'll teach again, every dollar you make above and beyond your expenses is called your profit. You want to make as much profit as you can, but job number one is to get your expenses covered. And we believe the best way to get your expenses covered each and every month is through monthly recurring revenue. And we believe the best way to do that is to offer subscribe and save supplements in your own e-commerce store. We might be able to help you with that if you've got questions on how to do that. We don't do it because we need another thing to sell. We do it because we think it's the most important tool you need that nobody else is offering out there. We decided we'd go out, build it, put it together into a program, teach you how to use it, and help you achieve your financial freedom so that you can be the best chiropractor possible. That's the goal. Jeff, what are some of your favorite Amazon lessons?
Jason, I think you touched on at least one of them, and that's subscribe and save. Absolutely critical way to go about business. Doing onesies and twosies and having to sell is very few people's idea of a good time. So when you have subscribe and save, you don't need to deal with that whatsoever. It makes it super easy for you and super easy for whoever your customer, client, patient, practice member, however you want to define that. It makes super easy for them as well. That ties into number 2, which is ease of use. You talked about user experience. I could not agree more. How easy is your service to use? How easy are your products to purchase? If every product you have that's for sale is behind the front desk in your practice, so that's a big step. Somebody's got to know your practice exists. Somebody probably has to have been into your practice. Now they have to drive back to your practice just to make that purchase. So that goes hand in hand. Having drop shipping, having ease of use, being able to have items in a store or on your website that people can purchase that are mailed directly to them. That goes to user experience. It makes it so much more likely that people actually purchase the item because friction stinks. You probably wouldn't go about having to drive down the street, go somewhere, and especially think about anybody that's never been in your practice doesn't even know what's behind your front desk. So you're missing out on massive opportunities. So subscribe and save, ease of use, and kind of tying into that is that drop shipping. I think anytime that you can have items, people purchasing online from your online store, from your website, and it's shipped directly to them and you don't need to worry about inventory, that's a huge thing. Amazon made that super easy. There's tens of thousands of people utilizing drop shipping across Amazon. They're the platform that facilitates it. But I think it's something all of us should consider as well. We've been working hard on that because it has historically not been easy for chiropractors to implement that sort of thing. You might be saying, great idea. How do I do it? Well, stay tuned because Payday Practice is going to outline it. And as that gets out there, we're going to outline some of those tools that can make it easy for you to implement this in your practice as well. So lots to be learned from Amazon and lots of, hey, anytime that you look at a large business, there are always things you can learn of things that you probably don't want to do, but never sleep on those things that you can do. And those businesses have gotten to those size for a reason. And while every single aspect of the business might not be how you run your business or how you want to go about running your business, that is totally cool. And that's actually a good thing and the right thing. But the key is to sift through that and say, what are those lessons I can learn regardless of what business it is? And Amazon is a fantastic example that I think we can learn a lot from. Membership, subscribe and save, ease of use, relentless focus on customer service, online shopping experience, drop shipping, all of those things you can certainly learn in your practice. Jason, I'm going to bring us both on the screen here. It has been an awesome Smart Chiropractor show. We went through a ton of material. I want to encourage all the docs out there listening and watching. If you're checking this out on social, enable notifications so you don't miss a segment or a show coming up. We're here each and every Tuesday. Or if you are checking this out on that second largest search engine on planet Earth called YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the Smart Chiropractor channel. We put out each and every segment, whole shows, playlists, and more videos to hopefully expand your mind about what's possible in business and practice, showcase other docs doing some awesome stuff, and maybe challenge you a little bit on the marketing and, dare I say, sales side of things each and every step of the way, because that is how we help people, by staying in business, by serving as many people as possible. And while none of us probably desire waking up every morning and selling, we all desire having a full schedule of our ideal patients who we can serve. And there is a middle ground between those two things. Jason, thoughts on today's show? What are you pumped about? We're coming down to the conclusion of it, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I guess I'll just wrap it up by saying Jeff and I couldn't be more excited about the Payday Practice and all that goes along with it. You're going to see, as we've been weaving in these ideas of monthly recurring revenue, of e-commerce, of drop shipping, of supplements that are everybody everyday supplements. These are all part of a very strategic and coordinated strategy and series of tactics we will be teaching in the days, weeks, months, and years to come, because it is the key to your freedom. We started off today's show by asking, does your mission matter? Does my mission matter? Does it matter what I do, or does it just matter how much I earn? And many chiropractors are doing it the hardest way possible. If you are a single practitioner, maybe even two practitioners in your own practice, you're only open certain days, you may be closed as many days as you're open. If you go back to zero every month in collections and start climbing that mountain, you are doing it the hardest way possible. I don't know how else to say it. And what I'm most excited about is that each of these segments in the show are there to design to teach you, to inspire you, to show you what you need to do, what you can do, what hopefully you will do in order to be able to start making the adjustments in your mindset first, in your practice second, online third, in order for you to be able to once and for all pivot into achieving the success that you've always wanted and quite honestly deserve. If you're a chiropractor, you deserve, in my opinion, to make a great living and have a good time doing it, because you're providing one of the world's most valuable services that is worth it. Our business model's off base. Our communication systems have been off base. Our marketing systems have been off base. All of it has just been old school. And we have been trailing in behind all of the new modern innovative ways to run a sustainable, high quality, profitable business. Memberships and subscriptions where it's at. Jeff, we keep weaving it in and out this show, every other show, in our segments, wherever we can. I'm hoping chiropractors are starting to get it, that the key to their financial freedom is in the recurring revenue. So you've got the finances to cover your expenses so you can increase your profit, increase your fun, increase your freedom and choices. Practice the way you want to. Another great show, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It has been a great show, and we will be back next week. Doc, if you are listening and or watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Enable those notifications. Subscribe on the YouTube channel. Have an awesome week in practice. If you have any questions, let us know. Jeff or Jason at thesmartchiropractor.com. We'll see you next week on another Smart Chiropractor show. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.